Hello, time for another vlog. I don't have any particular topic to talk about. Just thought I'd talk about stuff, basically. Um, just some odds and ends that have taken my attention for a bit of time during the week. One thing I noticed actually a couple of times, I don't know if there's a name for the phenomenon, but I'll call it post-listening awareness. A couple of times this week, someone's been talking to me and I didn't know, so I wasn't really listening. Well, I wasn't listening at all, actually. But when I discovered that they were talking to me, I knew what they'd said and answered them. Because normally, if someone's talking to you and you're not listening, you have to get them to repeat what they've said. I've done that too. But twice this week, I actually knew what they said, even though I wasn't listening. And when they drew my attention to the fact that they were talking to me, it was like, oh, well, yeah, that's right. Or something. That's a bit strange. I don't know. I haven't particularly noticed that phenomenon before. I mean, maybe it's happened before. It may have happened once or twice, I don't know, in my life, but it's happened twice this week. I wonder if it's something to do with the broader attention span that you get with enlightenment practice and things like that. Maybe it's something to do with that. Because you tend to, with like doing any sort of meditation practice or something, your attention is exercised and focused. And also at the same time it broadens so that you're more aware of the sounds in your environment, the sensations in your body, as well as what you're focusing on. There's some broadening of awareness, and maybe it was something to do with that, actually. Don't know. Just a little phenomenon worth noting. I don't know if you've noticed anything like that yourself at any time. What else? Oh yeah, one of my friends is saying, go on a dating site, get yourself a girlfriend or something, and I'm thinking, like, it's 2 years since my wife told me she was leaving, and it's about 1.5 years since the divorce. I don't know. I mean, basically, I don't feel like I can be bothered, and I don't know really. I mean, maybe I'm just not over it, but it just doesn't feel like it's worth the bother. And I know on the internet, experts say that men tend not to get over divorces and things like that very quickly anyway, if at all, whereas women do. They claim it's because the women speak to their friends about it more. It's true, I don't want to discuss it at all, really, with anyone. It's history. And I'm not into discussing personal things anyway. But also I think there's another factor, which is that usually breakups are instigated by the women anyway, in my experience. And I think that's a general observation too. So that would probably help them get over it too, because it's kind of happening according to their agenda. I think actually, I mean, if I look back over my own history, it is the case that every single girlfriend has left me rather than me leaving them. I mean, throughout my entire life, right? So, yeah. Although, okay, I did dump one, but she had gone off with someone else anyway, so that was kind of post hoc. And she had de facto left anyway, I think. I don't know, I'm 58, I'll be 59 in a month or so. I don't know, what would I get married for? I could do with someone to, tidy up the flat. Maybe I need a maid service, not a wife, I don't know. Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like it at the moment. I mean, if someone turns up, great, but I just can't be bothered really. And I certainly don't want to put my profile on dating sites and stuff at 20 plus quid a month for rudimentary matching systems. I don't like the idea of making up a profile, even though it's supposedly genuine. It's always a bunch of useless stats. It doesn't tell you anything really. I also hate like job applications and things like that, putting my profile on job sites and stuff, because it's equally inauthentic. No matter how much you try to make it right, it's still inauthentic. I just don't like it. And job interviews. Oh, why are you interested in this company? I'm not interested in your stupid company. Just give me the money, right? Even the person asking the question isn't interested. To be fair, I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, yeah. Getting myself a new partner. I'm content just getting on with my life, really. I think, yeah, if someone turns up, okay, but I'm not really going to go out of my way to go hunting one down. I just can't be bothered. I'm not that concerned about it at the moment. I don't know. What do you think? Seems a bit... It's just not on my radar at the moment. I don't know. Another thing I noticed this week was I was looking at the TV audience statistics. When you look at the way it's dropping off, and like the average viewer for like CNN and BBC News and so on is in their late 50s or early 60s sort of thing. And when you look at the hours, the average like 60-year-old in Britain and the US, for example, is spending about 5.7 hours a day watching TV. I find that incredible. Okay. Whereas younger generation are watching TV for about 1.7 hours a day. My own figure is 0. I don't watch it at all. I don't have one. One thing though, the younger audience is spending, in addition to 1.7 hours a day watching TV, they're spending 4 hours a day on the internet and social media. So it did strike me that 4 hours a day plus 1.7 hours a day equals 5.7 hours a day, which is the same as their older peers are spending just watching TV, because they don't use the internet much. So in fact, the total media consumption is the same. It's just different media. I suppose it's like how TV took over from radio. Back in the 40s and 50s, everybody really was listening to the radio, 30s, 40s, 50s. Then the 60s and 70s, it was TV, and 80s and 90s, TV, and now it's the internet more taking over. But still people are spending an enormous amount of time consuming junk. Maybe it's a little less junk on the internet if you are doing something intelligent. Listening to my vlog on YouTube counts for that. Okay. A recent scientific discovery: baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Turns out, we're getting a lot of autoimmune conditions these days. Hay fever's on the increase, and asthmas, and rheumatoid arthritis, and things of this sort. It turns out that a drink of baking soda each day, preferably sometime before a meal, doesn't say how long or anything, or how much to take, but I would guess a teaspoon in a glass of water, in a small glass of water will probably do the trick. Tunes down they've discovered just recently, it tunes down the immune system and calms it so that it is less hyper and more attuned to being anti-inflammatory rather than pro-inflammatory. Because there's a rise in inflammation in people these days, effectively that the response to what the immune system thinks are invaders, but is often the case just nothing harmful at all, or your own body. It turns out that a little drink of baking soda each day, preferably before a meal, apparently, because it affects how your spleen reacts to the meal by not producing any sort of immune response to it, but instead producing the type of immune cells that calm things down. I don't know the technical details of that, but it sounds like an easy thing to implement. Once a day, take a bit of baking soda, the sort without all the different ingredients, the one that only has sodium bicarbonate of soda in it. It's safe and seems harmless enough, and apparently people had measurable improvements within 2 weeks. So seems worth a try if you've got any of that going on. Chrome, Google Chrome. They claim that they've implemented some ad blocking technology to stop the most sort of egregious ads coming up, like pop-up videos and animated GIFs and all this sort of nonsense. Well, I've got the latest Chrome and it's made no difference whatsoever as far as I can see. Certainly they are not blocking the ads on the sites of their friends in the media, like the newspaper sites. Those sites are terrible for adverts and pop-ups and rubbish all over the place, and videos that play themselves. Terrible. And this Google thing isn't doing anything. Right. So I've just taken to blocking JavaScript on those sites. The heck with them, right? The way you block JavaScript on a particular site in Google Chrome is at the top, next to the address bar, on the left, there is a little word that says secure, or else it'll be just a letter I in a circle. If you click on that once, it'll pop down a little dialog box. At the bottom you can go to the settings for this site. Just click the settings. In there, look down, you'll see JavaScript. It'll say allow, switch it to block. Close the settings tab and reload the page, and you'll find all this advertising garbage is gone. The bad news is that if there is a video there that you want to watch, or some photos embedded in the page, it'll probably block them too. But I think for those websites, I'm trying to think of a suitable adjective for them, but anyway, those sites, they deserve to be blocked, frankly. They're just abusive, I think. Newspaper sites, basically, are the worst of the lot. Of course, these are the same types of criminals who were responsible for slavery back in the day. Big rich families that own these media corporations and so on. Because I was thinking, it's popped up here and there in the news. We should pay reparations for slavery. Us whites are all guilty, and stuff. I don't have a fixed opinion on this issue. I think, first of all, I am not guilty. I have not done anything. Okay. Nor would I. So it's not my crime. But on the other hand, I'm living in a wealthy society that has benefited from the slave trade significantly. And so I'm benefiting from it in terms of a relatively high standard of living, which would not probably exist without it. So which side of the coin does it fall? Even back in the day, if I look at the side where I'm not responsible because I didn't do it, even if I go back half a dozen generations or so, all the whites in Europe and America were almost all serfs. Okay, if you go back far enough. And it's not that far. I mean, serfdom was only abolished in Iceland in 1894 and in Eastern Europe in the 1860s, right? It kind of disappeared in the West a little bit earlier, Western Europe, but still, it's only a few generations back that we and our ancestors were slaves too. So we are not responsible for that. It is the wealthy landowners and property owners, the capital owners, asset owners who are from the responsible families, who did this to improve their productivity, right? Free labour, excellent, or all cheap anyway. Didn't have to pay them wages, you just had to whip them into shape, right? So, if there are to be reparations, it should, if anything, come from a reparations tax on the wealthy, who were the ones whose ancestors did it. But in practice it won't, because we know that the wealthy pay a lower proportion of tax on their income than the rest of us anyway. Because our societies are organised in this immoral fashion. So any reparations will come out of your and my taxes, basically. Now obviously the African people living in the West now are benefiting in the same way as everybody else here from it. So they don't need the reparations technically, although arguably some of them, they're kind of on average worse off than the whites still, I think. You probably need another generation or two for things to really finish levelling off, especially in the States. But West Africa is still suffering from it. That is, development in Africa was blocked basically by the kidnapping of millions of people. Okay, and yes, their own people were slave traders from different tribes, but still. So there's no obvious clear-cut answer to this, but I would say because we are benefiting a bit from it, and they are still suffering a bit from it, it would perhaps be sensible for the West to assist in the development of those countries, and not by the methods of the World Bank and the IMF and all that, whose efforts are essentially just more rent-seeking colonialism, exploitation steps. It's not proper development at all. Those institutions really should be closed and banned, because they're just a cover for more exploitation. You can read about it online. It's all over the place. So yeah, we probably should assist a bit. Get them on their feet again, those countries. And that should probably be it. But I don't know. Those are the things I've pondered this week. Okay. Over to you. Do you agree, disagree with any of that? Got any ideas? Bye for now.